There we go. All right. Thank you. And this too. There we go. All right. So, without wasting any more time, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but there's so many exciting things going on. Well, first of all, the Blue Jays are playing. Number one, the Blue Jays are playing. The second, Infinity War is coming. And thirdly, well, actually there is no third, my bad. But we got some amazing hosts. So grab whatever food you have, popcorn, biryani, Korean food, or barbecue, or whatever you have. Grab them and enjoy this UTSC's first ever late night talk show. So, it is my awesome privilege to introduce you to the first PAL co-host. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Chama Bukhari. Alright, now the second host, Rhythm Sajideva. And ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, Mel Shaw. Alright, let's get the show started, ladies and gentlemen. So guys, are you guys haunted or scared or you guys good, right?
I'm only concerned about...
It always gets better from the pilot.
It gets better.
No, I'm only concerned about the amount of food you mentioned. I mean, Rex is dead as closed, but where are they going to get this food?
There is definitely some alternative options. I mean, there's definitely a biryani store right there, and there's probably some Korean food right there.
There's always a biryani store in there. There's always masala, always biryani. This is what it's all about. With DJ Razcoon, ladies and gentlemen.
We don't only bring the biryani to the house, we also talk the biryani and we dance the biryani.
I don't dance the biryani.
I mean, I dance the biryani, I mean, I'm game.
Okay.
But anyways, so we got some topics that we're going to talk about. The first topic, Nels. I know you're just like, can we finally get to the topic without any interruptions? But here it is. Infinity War. It's coming out in 3 weeks. Number one. Number two. I know, there's some idiots out there, they like to...
There's a lot of idiots out there.
Of course. Of course. I mean, there's so many that I just can't, like... That's idiot number one.
There's one.
There's number one. That's idiot number two. Three Stooges. And, like I said, these idiots, they always like to bring controversy to the table, wherever they go. UTSC, Toronto, anywhere. The first controversy that I like to talk about is Black Panther, the movie. Now this movie has been killing it. It's been $1 billion, but just generally speaking, the concept of characters getting whitewashed, it's been happening for a long time. Not just characters getting whitewashed. Characters' ethnicities being changed, not the gender swapping, and some people are happy with it, but other people are not happy with it. The PC culture, people getting offended by it. Obviously that side didn't take to woo. But yeah, I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on that? The PC culture and just the movie side. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, now let's take a shot.
Well, it's a very loaded discussion.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking a situation where a character is white in the source material, but in the film adaptation they're played by an actor of color, I don't really see that as a problem because historically the film industry and every industry in a Western country for that matter is systemically built to privilege a certain section of the society, in this case, white men. But when something like that happens, where a character is white in the source material, but played by an actor of color in the film, people act like, why are you trying to appease the SJWs? Like, why are you trying to change the character in that way? When I don't think that's a problem. I just think whenever that happens, it's just a way of leveling the playing field in order to truly ensure that the best person for the job is found, regardless of their ethnicity.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Nels, is I was just wondering, if that's an interesting analysis. How does you say that the playing field isn't leveled? And in some cases that may be true. But to sort of insinuate that there is this grander concept of white privilege, as you mentioned in movies, is what I think you're implying. How does that work, really? Can you elaborate on that?
Like how white privilege works?
In movies, yeah.
Well, I mean, it may not.
What do you think sort of displays white privilege? Why do you think it exists?
Well, because like whenever there's like a new movie coming out, and whenever there are a lot of hit pieces of like, oh, like the actors to watch or the filmmakers to watch, like the rising stars, like it's usually like they're usually white. I mean, not to say that like, oh, they don't deserve it or anything. It's just a lot of like casting directors and producers of that sort of thing. Like a lot of people view that as like the default setting.
Fair enough,
but we can also agree there's certain rules. Some characters, there should be a set of norms that, for example, you're making a recipe, right? Let's say you're making a biryani recipe. You're always following a certain formula. You're trying your best not to deviate from that formula.
Right.
Because this recipe has been passed out from the grandfather to the mother to the father.
Right.
In that same way, this concept has been followed with characters as well. Certain characters, like the characters that are not important, if their gender is swapped or they're different color, we don't mind that. But if it's a major character and you kind of deviate from that, then there's kind of an issue with that. For example, like let's say Superman, he's established that he's a white character.
Right.
But if we suddenly if we suddenly make him Mexican, then I'm just like, what? Yeah, bate. What is this? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a character with an established formula, and if you change it wouldn't make sense. It would deviate from this.
Well, I think that's an interesting point. I'm sorry if I could just really before forgetting it.
Okay.
Yeah. Nell said that there's a what he meant to say was, I'm paraphrasing, that there's an prevalence of white privilege.
Yeah.
Because most of the main characters happen to be white.
Yeah.
But could it be that since the majority of the population within the Western world is white, it only makes sense that if we are to keep the proportionality alive within these films, that it's only sensible that the majority of the superhero characters also be white? Is it really that unreasonable to believe so?
I think not necessarily. It's okay to have a white protagonist. We're used to the narrative.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed whenever we see a movie of an entire white cast, no one bats an eye. We expect it. But the minute we have a movie of an entire black cast or an entire Latino cast, we feel the need to make this a conversation. We feel the need to ask why. Why are we asking why? America is a country which has so many ethnicities which are underrepresented in Hollywood.
Right.
And if you finally start making movies which cast them appropriately, and it is completely possible to have a cast full of Latinos because there's such a big Latino community. They get to have stories about them.
Right,
Yet people, the minute people start making a big deal about it, and the minute people feel the need to start questioning it, that's the problem. I think that's the inferior problem where it's right at the root. That's wrong. Like you said, the recipe. Why must the recipe mean only white cast? I think it would be extremely original if someone comes to me and says, I want to make a new Superman movie on the perspective if he was black. How would it be different if he was a black man? Would he have the same journey? Now that probably won't make sense considering the plot. However, I don't see the necessity, the consistent, for a movie to be originally Hollywood, it must be an all-white cast. Does it have to be?
No, but here's the thing, right? Because if you take an all-white cast, suppose a movie has an all-white cast, and it's taking place, it's being produced within the States, you can imagine that it's entirely plausible that the person who is directing and producing and choosing the cast didn't have to screen out people just because they were black. They didn't have to put an extra effort into it. They just got these white people by default because that's how prevalent they are in the population. Whereas I think why predominantly black movies or Latino movies are so controversial is because the cast members are actively chosen against the gradient. To say, you know what, just because you're white, we're not going to cast you, and just because you're black, we're going to cast you. So it's a matter of race over merit.
And it's not just that, by the way, it's something that randomly came out of my mind. I don't know if you guys know, but there's this like weird tribe somewhere in Indonesia. Like they're in this like island near Australia, and they're basically the last type of people in the world that is like away from technology, like the last like indigenous people, like away from civilization. And there have been stories going on where as soon as you go there, like if you're like even 6 or 20 meters from there, they will kill you. They will kill you with an arrow. Even if you're on a boat, they will kill you. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is you think this is like Hollywood. This is like the Hollywood, you're on an island, and they kind of feel threatened. Like all these like, this is like Black Panther. These cats are here, they're like, how dare you? This is our formula. How dare you change your formula? You think it's that type of thing going on, where they kind of feel threatened by their like formula changing?
I would like to. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, to get to the point made earlier about how Western countries are predominantly white, so when this happens, it's just representing the society. And I just want to say that, like, if we're taking the U.S. for example, I don't know the specific percentages, but I believe they have about like a 60% white population. Yeah. And like around 40-something% consists of different non-white ethnicities. But if we're looking at the trajectory of Hollywood and how films have been cast historically, it doesn't represent that at all. Like it's way more than 60%. So to use that defense, like, oh, the country's mostly white, so it makes sense. Like you can't really use that as a defense for.
But what about those people? They're like, I mean, this is not me, obviously, I'm just like a neutral guy, but like, from their perspective, they're like, screw you, how about the performance, make it a good movie? What would you say to them?
Well, that's very subjective. I mean, there are a lot of very talented actors and filmmakers of all ethnicities. Yeah. So, the fact that you say, oh, it should be based on merits, like, that's still not an excuse to not represent.
It kind of simplifies the problem.
Yeah, because like
here's the thing, right? Because fine, we can talk. Yes, there are actors of all races and religions and nationalities. Yeah. Sure, there are. But really, if we're being honest, I as a brown person, you know, my parents would never approve of me being an actor. And I'm not saying that I speak on behalf of all brown people, but I know of many brown people who would feel that way, right? And I think that is a consistent reality within many minorities. Yes, fine, 60% people are white in the States, 40% are minorities, but how many of those minorities are trying to make it on a 9-to-5 job instead of trying to pursue their careers in Hollywood?
There's absolutely enough supply. Like, if you're going to make that argument, I agree with you that yes, there are a lot of Indian families or brown, so the sub-Asian content, you know, come from families who are not maybe encouraging people to go in the entertainment industry. However, if a filmmaker says, I want to make a movie, a love story, a plot that has nothing to do with color or gender or really anything, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm going to cast a basic white man and basic white woman, and I'm going to make a love story. Now that's the narrative that I think we should change here, because why must a basic movie that doesn't have any political theme have to cast white people? It could just as well have someone who's black or brown or Latino. And I seriously don't think someone can make the argument, I'm not going to hire them because of merit. There's just enough supply of talented actors in every race. Right. You know, and the concept that we must hire someone white, you know, in order to avoid all kind of political controversy, it's simple, you know, it fits our plot's nature. That's exactly like you actually nailed it with the whole recipe thing. It's a basic recipe of the kind of people that you can cast and no one asks any questions. Right. But I don't see why that's necessary. I think, you know, that you should be able to make a love story of two black people without people raising any questions.
Ideally, you should be able to. I fully agree with that. I'm 100% on board with that. Yep.
You bring in an excellent point of the roles. For too long, every time it's a minority character or a character that's like non-white, it's always the case that they're given roles that are, you know, they're not protagonists, it's the opposite. They're given roles that like usually they're given that are associated with minority characters. Meanwhile, you know, someone...
Exactly, why is that necessary? Why can't we just cast a normal role of someone?
But on the positive side, we are living in a world where that's kind of shifting. Nels, I don't know about you, but you've seen that movie Moonlight, right?
Yeah.
Moonlight with Stay. Mashar Ali and that other guy. Phenomenal movie, right?
Yeah, great movie.
Because it had a black character as a protagonist, and they touched upon many controversial themes. Because he was not only black, he was also gay too. There's not only that, and also he was the main character, and they did a phenomenal story. So the story, the performance, and he was a male protagonist, so they did both of that. What we're talking about.
Yeah.
Changing it in the right direction. So, in that direction, I mean, I know, I'm just like, we're talking about that direction now, kind of like...
She's looking at me like I'm some kind of racist. Now he's talking about this. What are you going to
Absolutely
say?
not. I know him very well. I just don't agree with you. You know, the entire concept that because the majority, as you say, is white, therefore it makes sense that movies must cast white actors. I don't agree with you.
I'm not saying they must.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with that, you're right, because that's not my statement. Right?
However, there's both points. I mean, to be a white character, I mean, for me, there has to be a set of, like, for example, you guys know SpongeBob, right? Like,
Personally, yeah.
yeah. Personally,
Yeah.
Alright, okay. I'll talk to you after the show.
Excellent.
But like, what was I gonna say? There's a certain amount of things that are like, no, you don't touch. That's like the big X spot, right? It's like, you know, like when you go home, right? Your mom's like, do not touch this, do not do that, I will do that. That's like a big no-no, right? So for me, this is exactly that. It's like, obviously, there's certain roles that, you know, some of these minority characters they can do. However, there's certain things that are only for these, like, to my point of that Superman, right?
Yeah.
This role has been there for 75 years, right?
Yeah.
And it's associated with a white character. But if we suddenly change the gender, it wouldn't make sense. They would say, oh look, this is a Superman, no, this is not a Superman, this is Supergirl, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
we're changing the gender, we're changing everything.
Right.
Instead of doing that, why don't you just write another character? You know?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
That's just lazy writing. Like,
Right.
If you're gonna change the gender and the ethnicity, why don't you write another character? Because that would do the character and you know, that a whole lot of justice.
Well, the way you have to look at it is like with characters like Superman or like a lot of these like iconic comic book characters,
Yeah.
like it doesn't really matter what the ethnicity is. Like you have to keep in mind that with a lot of these comic books, like these characters were created in a time when they had to make the characters white because they wanted to sell
However,
comics.
some characters, it is key. For example, you guys know Slumdog Millionaire, right? Slumdog Millionaire? Everyone watch that?
Yeah.
If you don't, you should get out of here.
Good movie.
Alright, so if we were to change the ethnicity of that character to like, let's say a white character, we'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, why? Right? He's he's a brown character because it makes sense in the story. If you were to suddenly change the gender, it wouldn't make any sense. So that's what I'm saying. For certain characters, it makes sense to keep their gender.
I fully agree. I mean, like, we all know that only white people live on Krypton, so that makes total sense.
I mean, I have my beautiful white friend right there. So there's obviously, you know.
So the rest who aren't white, they're not
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly. You know, I just
I see.
take it as great. There's obviously idiots everywhere, right? It's like every culture has some idiots.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think we've done a good job with the first topic. Now, going on to the second one, viewer discretion is advised. I mean, obviously it's not gonna get that heated, but it's a bit of that spiciness that you're not used to.
That was all.
That the salt that, or what are you doing? It's not a laughing noise. This is like scary, like
Dead serious.
argument noise. All right. So PC culture. We've talked about it from the movie perspective. Right now we have to talk about it from a different perspective. We've had this conversation a couple of days ago at Tim Hortons. Three of us talking about the concept of free speech. You know, should hate speech be regulated? Should government get in the way of this? Or should government stay out of it? I mean, you brought up this nice analogy where this is us three, we're talking, or, you know, if you say a certain joke like, oh, you're an asshole, like, it would make sense because we get the meaning. But if some random stranger were to come in and say, oh, you're an asshole, we'd be like, dude, what is your problem? I don't know you. What are you saying, right? So
Right.
you brought that analogy, but I also asked you, and I'm like, So, that thing about should hate speech be regulated or not? So, what are our thoughts on that?
Well, I feel like it's really hard to say something as simple as yes, I support PC culture or no, I don't support PC culture. Like I wouldn't be able to give you that answer. However, I feel like a lot might disagree with me on this, but I feel like freedom of speech is something in our amendment. It's a beautiful right that we all have. That sometimes it's exploited. There's certain responsibilities I think that come with freedom. And with just because you can say whatever you want, and I think that's amazing to be able to express your ideas and come up with new ideologies. You should be able to have that freedom, and I don't dispute that. However, I do believe that certain responsibilities, you can't ignore them, I wouldn't want my freedom of speech. I wouldn't want my freedom of speech to hurt different people. And you know what? The problem in this kind of era is, no matter what I say, I feel like I might end up insulting someone. However, if there's a way in which I can be educated, in a way to speak, in which I can maybe offend people slightly lesser, I would like to go for the alternative.
However, if you insult a Nazi, I'll buy you bananas.
I'll take you up on that.
There's that. But having said that, I just find it fascinating that the world we live in, what is wrong with, for example, the game Wolfenstein 2, right? The game where you basically shoot Nazis. I find it fascinating that we're criticizing a Nazi, like this race that killed 11 million people, and suddenly I'm a social justice warrior, are you kidding me? These are Nazis, so why is it that we're living in a culture where even the fact that we're criticizing Nazis and we're like, bro, don't do that. I had a friend, you guys know that incident in Charlottesville, right? Trump was like, oh yeah, both sides are fine. Both sides are fine. Are you kidding me? You had a truck go over the crowd. How is that fine? That is not fine. But again, we're living in that culture. It's like, yeah, no. Yeah, you're good. Oh no, I'm not gonna offend anyone. Why is that? Is it the fact that we're trying our best not to offend anyone? Why do you guys think it's like that?
As a society, we're getting to that point where we're trying to correct a lot of the wrongs that were committed in the past. And as this progress is going on, you have people in positions of privilege who feel threatened by these changes going on in the society, so they try to make up this persecution complex.
Even threatened to the fact, okay, look, this is actually a true story that I've researched, okay, I'm not making this up. This MVP, he's saying that they're trying to remove the word mother and father. I don't know, I'm a pretty neutral guy, but I'm just saying that raises a lot of questions.
This is what happens, right? When you try to move away from fascism, but you move away so far left that the spectrum actually turns into a circle and you come full circle back to fascism.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
It's making full circle, right? We're always like, oh, look at you, you're a Republican, you're a Trump supporter. But on the other hand, the exact opposite is happening. We're like, oh yeah, you're a Trump supporter and all that, blah, blah. Meanwhile, we're just as bad as them. Exactly. We're like, oh, we're just shouting and making all this stuff.
Well, you can't really say we. You have people who are on the extreme on both sides.
Both
that
sides,
doesn't represent the majority of the society.
But it just baffles my mind. When I grew up, I was used to saying mother and father, but I'm just like, are you kidding me? If you say the wrong pronoun, you go to jail? What about people that are coming from, for example, the immigrant population that's coming into Canada, right? Just imagine from their perspective, they say the wrong thing, they go to jail. It's really?
I think persecution for saying things like this, I don't think that's a good idea at all.
No.
I feel like it breeds fear. It's really ironic right now. We're in a talk show. We're talking about political neutrality. And I feel scared right now. I don't know what I can say right now live, and that'll get me into trouble. And you know what?
True.
This is an obstacle to us being able to express ourselves freely. If we have ideas that we want to say, I think we shouldn't be living in an environment in which we're scared. But I still think that where do we draw the line? Should we be able to say that just because we have freedom of speech, I will call someone retarded just because I can? I live on residence, and the word retarded a lot of people aren't allowed to see that because it affects a certain group.
Okay.
You know, and when someone explained this to me, when they sat down and explained to me, I understood it, and then I started consciously stop using the word. But like, I feel like, are you going to educate 500 students, 1,000 students? What is the solution?
The solution, if I may interrupt, here's the solution. We just talked about this, right? If you know your friends, you talk about all your dirty jokes and all that. Only your friends would understand.
Locker room talk.
Exactly, yeah, that too. But if you're talking to a stranger, they're like, how dare you, right? So, let me bring it up to this analogy. You know that controversial debate, pineapple pizza versus non-pineapple pizza, right? Well, here's the thing, right? Yeah, I know, I'm just like, yeah, how dare you? Well, don't worry. Yeah, so...
Going from racist Nazis to pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, I'm just like, with your friends, you're gonna say, yeah, bro, let's order some pizza, like, that's like not pineapple, right? And if you would, like, if a random stranger was to come here and they're pineapple, and when you say the opposite, like, that would be offensive. So the goal is saying all the dirty pineapple jokes within the friends, within your clothes, within your families and friends, and then within the strangers, you have to kind of draw the line. You have to like know them first. If that makes sense.
That makes no sense at all. And let me tell you why. Because that is against the very concept of freedom of speech. As soon as you see a stranger, and you say, you know what, I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to judge where they stand, how sensitive they are first, before they're able to, God knows what, to do what in today's world, maybe have you put in jail or have some sort of probation on you, judging on what you say or what you don't say. As soon as you begin regulating your thoughts instead of expressing yourself, I think that is a definition of an impediment to freedom of speech.
Okay.
Isn't it? So if we should never be, especially in a Western liberal democracy, this is the last kind of place that you should be regulating your thoughts as when you know them to be not offensive. When you have no ill intent, but you still find yourself regulating your thoughts, that's how you know that the far left is getting to you.
Yep, absolutely. But
she's rolling her eyes.
Again,
but see, she's rolling her eyes. And she doesn't
like, should I not? Oh,
one thing about
if it was up to her, she would put me in jail, and this is what I'm against, right?
Absolutely not. There's one thing about me. My body language says a lot about me.
It's probably there somewhere.
This is all a jail, bro. We have our inmate codes as well.
I agree with her.
That's how they laugh in jail.
I agree with certain aspects of what he has to say. And I said it before, I don't want to be scared. I want to be able to think freely. I don't want to censor what I'm thinking. If I'm aware that my words are offending someone, if I am fully educated about the fact that my words are about to offend the person I'm about to say on a highly personal level, I think I can be compassionate enough to maybe censor a word, maybe censor a line.
And we also have to appreciate the fact that we have to admire the fact that we can actually say something and that offends someone, because what we have this is like what happens when I offend someone. But anyways, what we're trying to what were you saying? Sorry. Something about the offense, let me just like take it back.
I was thinking of an offensive joke right
Okay.
I lost my train of thought.
So something about that, okay, it's come back to me.
Yeah.
So we have to admire the fact that whatever we say can offend someone, because what we have to avoid is like the Russia situation. Like, you say something there, Vladimir Putin, he'll just like poison me. Like even like journalists are scared of expressing their thoughts. That's something we have to avoid doing it.
What good is freedom of speech?
Exactly.
If you cannot offend somebody.
Exactly. That's
a simple
we have to admire.
That is a simple question.
We have to admire that fact.
Exactly.
I think like we should obviously be very thankful that we have freedom of speech, because as we mentioned, like there are a lot of places around the world where you can be persecuted or possibly killed for saying the wrong thing or promoting a certain cause.
Such as Canada.
But with that right that we have, we should be fair. Like, we should be fair to ensure that we shouldn't be consciously trying to offend people. We shouldn't exploit or pervert this freedom of speech in order to say something hateful, because even though we have freedom of speech, like we still have laws against hateful words and actions.
I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. And here's the thing. Okay, so you guys remember when the Charlie Hebdo massacre took place? I believe a few years ago. Yeah. Charlie Hebdo.
Charlie Hebdo?
Charlie Hebdo.
No, remember when the British
those Danish
newspaper
cartoonists?
did the comics and then Muslim extremists?
Oh yeah.
You remember that, right? Okay, so many people cited freedom of speech, and they were right. Those people had full right to draw cartoons of Muhammad, and what I'm saying is super controversial in the Muslim world, so I might be facing serious consequences for this, but you know, they had the full right to do so. And I, as a Muslim, stand by their right to draw whatever in the world they like, including caricatures of the Prophet. Do I think that it was right of them to draw these caricatures? No, it was completely wrong. Was it right that they were killed for it?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't right. It was absurdly wrong, and definitively, categorically in the wrong, right? But just because the caricatures they drew are deemed to be morally wrong by me does not give me the right to persecute them, kill them in any manner whatsoever. So as soon as we start saying, you know, we should watch out for other people's feelings, yeah, we should, but if we do offend somebody at the end of the day, so what? So what?
Well, we should take these opportunities to create a dialogue and promote conversation instead of just like stomping your foot and saying, well, this is my stance and you're wrong and whatever. Like,
oh, for sure.
I think you can argue that with like, just not even specifically with those, like with satirical comics in general, it's meant to promote a dialogue about something that's going on in the real world.
Yep.
And what we should have done is taking those comics, whether or not we agree with what we had to say or how they chose to say it, we should have had a dialogue and say like, oh, I see what you're saying, but you could have done it like this, or oh, what you're saying here is offensive. We should have had a back and forth conversation.
Right, but if somebody doesn't agree with that, what would you do?
Well,
if somebody says, I insist on being offensive, what do you do then? What's your next step?
You can't really change someone when it's at that point. Like, if they take a hard stand and they're not willing to listen, and they're not willing to engage in multifaceted conversation.
But if I may just interrupt, I mean, my dad has said something. He said that, like, you know, when we always have a debate, sometimes it's wise not to wait. Like, for example, if we're debating, like, I don't know this story I was going on, it was like a fox or something. Like if you waste your time arguing with that character, you are the bigger fool than that guy, because that guy is a complete idiot. He's gonna talk on and on and on, and regardless of, even if you're talking about it for 2 or 5 or 6 days, you're not gonna change his mind. He's like, no, screw you, I think I'm right. So in this case, you are the bigger idiot because you are wasting your precious energy and air arguing with that guy, because no matter what you do, you won't be able to change his mind. So there's also that perspective, because, you know, in this world, like, obviously we're gonna have like arguments, entertainment, and blah blah blah, but we're gonna face that odd idiot, regardless of what we say or how much, like, even if we like spend like $2,000 to buy them like a fancy cake, we will never be able to change their mind. That's fine. It's always that's always gonna happen.
MashaAllah, brother Razcoon, everybody.
Yeah, man. Yeah. What was I gonna say?
Won't that promote anarchy? I understand what you're saying, and I want to say I agree. I feel like everyone should be able to say what they want to, but there is also abuse of this right. Like, okay, let's just say, for the sake of argument, I say I don't believe that transgender people deserve their own pronoun. Let's just say that's my stance.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
Triggered.
Let's assume I have that stance. So based on your logic, I should be able to use whatever pronoun I think please, no matter how many communities I end up offending. Is that right?
Right, that's right.
It's not that, it's a matter of like, for example, like, exactly, you're like, okay, this is what I believe, and so on, so on. And
I think in order for a civilization to take place, yes, we should have the freedom to express our thoughts.
Exactly.
We should also be the kind of civilization that accepts each other. We shouldn't be the civilization who's stubborn, who takes advantage of being able to say whatever we like and be like, well, you know what, I have been brought up a certain way and your sexuality means nothing to me.
But here's the question: what if we are stubborn?
Exactly. What is the question?
What is the ultimate?
What is the ultimate
And
goal?
why should we use freedom of speech to promote this stubbornness?
Yeah.
You're using it as a tool.
We're not. Nobody's promoting stubbornness. We're saying what is the end goal? Say, because you have to be prepared. Your rules, your worldview has to accommodate all sorts of pathways that anybody can take. So in this particular pathway, somebody is being stubborn. Somebody says, you know what, Muhammad was a warlord, or Muhammad was this, or you know what, I refuse to use your pronoun that you prefer to be called by. What do you do? What do you do in that case?
I say that we don't do nothing. I am not going
So we do something.
I think we should. And you know what? I don't agree with the government's use of legislation, and we should arrest anyone who doesn't use the vocabulary of we being friendly. I do not believe in that.
Okay, so there should be no legislation against this.
I think that there should be recommendation.
Why should they be reprimanded? Okay, so like if that means so as soon as you issue any sort of recommendation, or I'm not even sure if that's a word.
Running out of time, just quickly. If we can conclude this, the last comment, the last question that I have for you guys: free speech can be summed up to either small government or big government. In Canada's case, it's a bit of both. So, what do you guys think? Just concluding remarks in terms of whether free speech should it be a small government type of thing, where it's like the people decide, or it's like, majority of it decided by the government? Just very quickly, what are your thoughts on it?
I think the people decide eventually, especially in Western liberal democracy. Hopefully, the people decide what the government is going to be like. If people don't like what the liberal government is doing at present, they're going to get shuffled around and change.
All right. Any last comments before we conclude topics 1 and 2?
Last comments are: let's not go down this path of saying we shouldn't have that, or saying rather that we should respect people's opinions just because they can take offense to that. That is no legitimate reason.
I can relate to this on, I know not a lot of people watch cricket here, but it really pisses me off when people say, oh bro, I really respect what you're doing and what your country's like. I'm like, bull, that's bull. I know what you're trying to say. You're like, oh, my country's that and that. It's like, bro, I know what you're trying to say. India's better than Pakistan, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like,
anybody can lie,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I can just like see straight to their face. And I'm just like laughing at the audience. I know what happened, but hopefully this Asia Cup, Bangladesh will beat India, and we will be having the last laugh. And we will be doing the noggin dance. The noggin dance will be back. I guarantee you that.
Hopefully this time we won't be shirtless.
It was the shirtless too. Surab Ganguly did that too.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Anyways, so thank you so much, guys, for this wonderful topic discussion. There was no fights. It was good. There was some fights. Metaphorically speaking.
You can't guarantee what happens off.
Exactly. No shirts were taken off, and the audience is good. And fortunately, this has managed to stay, which is a miracle.
And those noises stop like half.
Yeah, the ghost is gone.
Excellent.
It's amazing.
Gate number 1 is silence.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, we'll be taking a short break, but meanwhile, there'll be 2 performances. So the first performance is Osobe Waberi. She'll be doing a poetic performance, and after that, we have Rogers with his epic music, and after that, the last but not least, we're talking about America, the land of America, all that greatness, and then we'll have like a big ensemble battle royale every single panel. Battle royale. So that is it for now. So it will be part 2. So enjoy the rest of the show. So without further ado, here's Osobe Waberi to carry on. Where's Osobe Waberi? All right, Osobe Waberi. There's the stage.
Before we start, a big shout out to Rhythm for being the only woman on the panel. So my name guitar while I do poetry. This poem is called Heartless. This is for the women who are difficult to love. For the ones who want romance, but know it won't come. To the daughters that await Prince Charming, not knowing he is more prince than charming. This is for the women who have been left heartless. Mama raised you fearless, yet you fall for people who fear will hurt you. Your mother swears you weren't raised this way. Sure as God you have not lost your way, that you will not stay this way because He has paved your way. This poem is for every one of you. For you are me and I am you. This is for the women who have yet to understand the difference between being wanted and being needed. This is for the women who have stars come down to greet you. This is for my friends who have been made to feel miserable and magical at the hands of a man, to the women who have been touched by the devil, who have been carved from within a hollow place where things are easily lost, who have been torn apart by feelings, split into by desires, caught between loyalties, all because they took your breath away, and now you have lost the feeling in your lungs. This is for my sisters who have been brought too close to the sun, who have been left to burn because of their sins, who have forgotten how good God's name feels rolling off of their tongues. The ladies that have had them sharpen their edges, counted on their faith to smooth them down again. See, God has built the ground so you can paint the sky. You are the sky that has yet to be painted. When men were merely by paper, we graze them in colorful ink. We are the artists the world will not speak of. The canvas that lays bare and cannot be touched until completed. We are the greatest form of art this world has ever seen. My words are not to be held in the throat of a man that speaks ill of me, to be repeated against me. I will not let you hang me with the words God has breathed into my lungs, the same lungs you empty. So seek the one who prays for you, who whispers your name into the darkness, hoping you will find its way into the light and back again, who will love you in this world and await you in the next. This is for the heartfelt and those heartless, for those who love and those who loved, for the dreamers and those who dreamt, and may be uncertain of the world's love for you, but I pray you never question mine. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands up for Audrey.
All right, guys. We have no microphone. So can you guys hear me? Yes. People in the back? Yes. People outside? DJ, hit me. I don't make mainstream music. I make music for the people. Music for the people. Music for the people. Music for me. It's alive. At UTSC, I'm from Scarborough. 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 I'm from Scarborough. 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 I had my life planned out there, but got another plans. I tried everything to cheer up, all but be a man. We barley water with the crops. I was captain hooked on your rug. We never end, but all I know, nothing was promised, and all I know, I cherished and tarnished, and all I know, homeless to condos, yeah, all I know was to run. So I made music for the people, 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 music for me, it's a job. UTSC, I'm from Star. Come on! Star! Come on! Star! Come on! Star! 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 Put it up! Star! Star! You guys don't know that? You can press the wrong button or press the wrong button. I'm talking construction, hard action, a G-class, condoms and Constantine. Conscious, clear minds are losing consciousness. Constantly commit condemnation. Consider your convictions. An accomplice could con your convictions. Surrender your civil care to a court by co-witness. I've committed counts with co-workers. Consider crimes to co-witness. All I know, nothing was promised, yeah, all I know, I cherish and tarnish, all I know, homeless to condos, and all I know was to run to. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. The morning enough, helpless in space, dark with the winters and short with the day, fighting and fighting and finally finding a way out, finding a way out, finding a way out, finding a way out. I have been stressed out so long, this feeling's the only thing I know. Just feeling inadequate, can't seem to shake a brick and wake a battle. They here, they come, here I go. I can't quite put what I hear in words, but I swear I can hear them know. It started 4 years ago, so my ears are so numb to it. They tune each other out and tone. Here they come, here I go. I wish I could go. Frolic on the range, roll like a buffalo. I'm a soldier though, black G.I. Joe. But I wish I had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. No, here they come, here I go. I'm like your nightmares, short as the days. The chains in your brain, but how could you escape? But fighting and fighting and finally finding a way out. Finding a way out. Finding a way out. I go to church for amazing grace, but lately I feel like a waste of space. My brain's a deck of 52 cards. I'm a joker, not even an ace of spades. I remember when I was relevant, like a pair of bathing apes back in 08 when they were called babes. No one knew Drake, but I was somebody. Someone with promise. My friends met their match. That's a pimp to an Amish. I took that match and sparked it up. Started inhaling and coughing. Pound after pound, pound, pound like a nail in the coffin. Up until college, it was something fun. It was spiritual. Started out soothing, it was lyrical. Sometimes a curse, sometimes a miracle. They call me crazy, it made me hysterical. No one wants to talk about, no one wants to hear it. So circle's gotten so small it's a Cheerio. The more we ignore it, the louder it gets, people. Here they come, here we go. The corner is up. Alright, that's my time, guys. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna say something really controversial. Look, I know we hate Trump. Like, I love to hate Trump, if that makes any sense at all. Because you get to that phase where you're just like, this is a party, it's like, it's so awful, there's like nothing to talk about, and then this guy comes out and he's like, finally, it's like, we love to hate this guy, so we're gonna talk about this. So, we have reached the conclusion, okay, not that conclusion, we have reached the conclusion of the show where we are in part 2. we're going to talk about some controversy involving America, the politics, all that shenanigans. And I was fortunate enough to get someone regarding like a specialty, regarding the gun stuff and all of that. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce not 1, 2, or 3, 4 guests actually. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Yusuf Babulia. I'm good? Alright, secondly, I'd like to introduce Anders Graham. How are you? That was a good bow tie, man. Alright, I'm forgetting someone. Ibrahim, that's right. How can I forget Ibrahim? You know, Ibrahim sounds like the name of a prophet. I was just gonna say, your name sounds like a prophet name, man. It's like something from the heavens. It is actually a prophet, yeah. I was right. And maybe that's like why it's blue. Because it's like the second coming, maybe too soon? Yeah. Alright, and you guys move a bit there. I was fortunate enough to get someone else. This is completely unexpected, but he came from the sky. He came flying from the sky, straight out of the sky. Put your hands together for Shiram, if I'm saying it correctly. Put your hands together for Shiram. Alright. So guys, how are you guys feeling? Are you guys feeling tired, boozed, or how exactly are you guys feeling after that? I mean, you guys are like, let's get on with it. Let's get on with the Second Amendment. Let's get on with the actual controversy. Very excited. Me, Yusuf, and you, we explored Boston, so we have a wealth of knowledge, and plus me myself, being a big House of Cards fans, so we have that knowledge to look forward to. So, without further ado, let's get to the main topic. So, trade war. Trump's trade war. What are your thoughts on it?
I'll start off.
Yes.
Him enacting a trade war, it's not good for U.S. politics, of course, and goes against the traditional Republican orthodox when it comes to trade. Yeah. Republicans are traditionally very free traders. Well, as most Democrats as well. One thing he said right in the campaign was some of the trade deals did need to be renegotiated.
Absolutely.
NAFTA, so forth, but being renegotiated in terms of modernizing.
Yeah.
What he's done with the tariffs on trade, Canada and Mexico, both excluded, and some European states, it was more of an attack at China. But
which really baffles my mind, because here's this guy, he's like, screw you, I'm only for America. And then out of nowhere, he's like, no. I don't mean like only screw you, only America. I only mean that. But no, it's okay. Canada, just come to us. We don't mean you. We don't want to screw things with you. But I'm just like, what is this guy doing? He's saying this thing, the other thing. It's like you like it and you don't like it at the same time because he's so unpredictable. You don't know what he's doing.
His entire trade policy, it doesn't make sense because it's gone against every other economic decision. They enacted $1 trillion tax cut a few months ago.
I'm pretty sure all the economic advisors pretty much having a heart attack. It's like, what is this guy doing?
Depends who's advising you. That's a good question.
That's a good one. Yeah. Yes, Anders, you guys, what are your thoughts on that?
So, I think you can see where the anger came from, and you can see why people in the United States and Trump sort of tapped into this anger.
Yeah.
For example, when he was talking about the Canadian softwood lumber trade.
Yeah.
In Canada, people can cut down trees on Crown land.
Oh yeah.
So it's not their land, and then sell that and make a profit.
Oh yeah.
Because they don't have to own the land, it makes it, it basically gives them ability to sell this softwood lumber at a much cheaper price and undercut the US suppliers. So you can see why they're annoyed about this. But at the same time, if you're trying to bring back industrial jobs and you're putting a tariff on steel, it's just completely nonsensical.
And not only that, here's the interesting fact. I don't know if you guys know, but this trade war tariff thing is actually affecting in other ways too. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Major League Baseball. it's affecting that way because it's affecting the steel and the what's the other one? The
Steel and aluminum.
Steel and aluminum, and most of the bats that the baseball players use are from foreign, and they're using steel. So if you think about it, he's like, this is affecting that because now the bat prices are going up, and so now the baseball players are like, huh? What's going on? We're playing baseball. Why am I paying extra money to buy a baseball bat? So it's affecting in other ways too.
I think you're right to point out that it has knock-on effects, but I wouldn't be too worried about Major League Baseball players being able to afford their bats.
I mean, there's other ways too. I mean, I don't even know if this applies. I mean, players from other countries, would their value increase or decrease as a person? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not an expert on that. I mean, what do you guys think?
That's sort of more of an issue with immigration.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And the immigration policy.
Yeah. By the way, go on.
That's definitely something that can be talked about because making it harder for more people to come into the US. If we look at, say, Silicon Valley and the tech industry, a lot of those people are very annoyed because they've been, taking engineers and software developers and all of this from countries overseas and sort of having this brain drain where, if you're the best and brightest in the field, you want to work in the US. And by making it harder for these people to come to the US, you're directly affecting American tech companies and American idea companies.
And you know what it's not affecting? The Second Amendment. The right to bear arms. You're just like, yeah, how, you're just like, oh no, why'd you bring that up? And I'm like, we have to, because we're getting to that point, and this guy's just like, I can't wait, because you're like, I love my guns. My guns!
Well, I'm a huge gun guy. I grew up around guns. I'm actually looking forward to moving to America, with guns.
You're like, I can't wait to get that AR-15.
I'm a huge gun guy. I love guns. And so, I find that I actually get really upset because what I find about gun owners, even in Canada, because gun culture in Canada does exist, it's just way more hidden and way more annoying. Every time a school shooting happens, only around the time of school shooting, you never hear it when the news is lighting up with communities and minorities shooting each other to death. You never hear it then. It's only after a big school shooting that all these people come out of the woodwork to attack gun owners. And I feel like whenever a school shooting happens or whenever some traumatic thing which, like on a big scale happens, that's the only time that all gun owners always have to buckle down, like here they come. And it blows over in a couple months. Like all of a sudden people are like, we're just gonna stop fighting for this.
Like I can look at this from both sides. Like from their perspective, it's like, how dare you? This is like you're violating my constitution. It's like I have a right to bear arms, just in case like the government goes evil. Because they're like, because like that's exactly how America was formed. They want to challenge the tyrannical government, just in case the government went rogue. That's why everyone had the right to bear arms. But at the same time, from the modern perspective, isn't that a bit foolish to like presume that everything's fixed, like the constitution's everything's fixed? Like, for example, the Canadian Charter of Rights, that took a long time. Like, the formula for that, you had to have 2/3 of the province, and all of that to change. And also the fact that if we talked about that in the first topic, it's like the formula changes so and so on. Like the formula, for example, what do you guys eat? What's your favorite food? Pizza, right? So if we had the same formula for a pizza, it needs to evolve from time to time. It's like if it's fixed, then it would be like it's boring,
Right, because things are acceptable at different times.
Like it depends on the context. Like it changes from history to history, and that's why it's such a complicated topic. Because
to understand the Second Amendment a bit better, you need to know the timing and exactly what you said in which it was enacted.
Exactly.
And it's the whole idea you just fought off a French monarch. Well, the Second Amendment did not extend to weapons of war. And a good reference to this is the Helmer vs. District of Columbia decision that came out in 2008. And thus the Supreme Court essentially decided where does the Second Amendment cover. That covers handgun, covers some hunting
here's
rifles.
the thing though. When people say, you're taking away my gun, and I'm like, okay, fine, keep your gun, But if that's the case, well, look at the modern technology now. You have the tanks and stuff. Do they really think that if they have the gun, they stand a chance against the modern technology?
It's against the law. They will not come and take away your gun.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. You've got due process rights, and the Constitution doesn't allow it in the way American system is. No one's coming after your gun. The idea that gun owners get this is politicized. It's partly due from the gun lobbies, and particularly the NRA.
Yeah.
And no one is going to come after you for holding a gun. And when these school shootings end up happening, and the critical things for lawmakers is to respond through legislation. And they've been trying to do this for years.
Yeah.
The gun lobby has too much power over people in Washington.
Just to sort of jump on a couple points there, one thing it's important to remember is for gun manufacturers and a lot of people in the industry, this fear that the government's going to come and take away your guns is an incredible driver of sales.
Yeah.
And one of the best examples of that is the oldest gun company in America, Rubberband, just went under.
No, it was not Superman, it wasn't Ruger. I don't know, my friend just told me about it, so I was like, sad.
So American Gun Company just went under because they massively expanded their production facilities in anticipation of a Clinton victory in the presidential race. That didn't happen. Gun sales fall off a cliff, and now they've gone out of business. So this whole controversy and the idea that you have a revolving door of media coverage that happens every time there's a school shooting or another mass shooting, it's really to the benefit of a lot of people in the industry.
Right,
also,
yeah.
it's important to remember because the school shootings and the mass shootings are such big, high-profile events.
Yeah.
The majority of gun deaths in the U.S. are from suicide.
Yeah.
And almost all the gun deaths are caused by handguns.
Not only that, there's always this weird law where I don't know if you guys know about the gun something loophole rule.
It's called the gun show loophole.
Gun show loophole.
That's
Where it's just weird. It's like
the gun show loophole needs to be enacted. They need to close the loophole. And
exactly. It's like this is the guy, the shop. They're selling you the gun. Okay, the guy that buys the gun, he does the bad thing, but if he does the bad thing, are we also gonna blame the guy that sold
what
it?
you mean by the gun show loophole is you don't need a background check when you buy from gun shows.
Yeah.
That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
And this, I think in 2013 after Sandy Hook, they tried to sort of initiate it. They tried to expand background checks and close off the gun show loophole in a very moderate formation. And you had 2 NRA senators sponsoring this legislation.
Yeah.
And the gun lobby tapped it again, and we've seen it being revisited again, and this would have extended background checks, and potentially it didn't cover changing the age to 21.
Yeah.
And most Republicans who are very supported by the NRA agree on that.
You know, for us Canadians, in the near future, we have no concern about the guns or anything. I mean, from the recent news that I've heard, I heard the Liberals, they passed a law making it harder, more background checks, and it has received a lot of criticism, but in the near future, for us Canadians, there shouldn't be any concern.
It's a lot harder for us to get a gun in this country.
It is
Definitely.
maniacal. It's so difficult to get your hands on a gun in this country. And once you have the gun, actually, you can't do anything with it because that gun itself has so many modifications done to it where it's just not fun anymore. Like, from experience, I know that assault magazines have a clip where you can't hold more than 5 bullets.
Okay.
So now it's just no fun anymore.
Where things have got out of hand is that when you're seeing the weapons used in a lot of shootings and that, these are weapons of war that are too easily accessible for individuals, and these weapons are for military.
Yeah.
And they're designed to kill in close combat.
Absolutely.
They're not designed for regular people.
Yeah. But here's the thing, I'm trying to draw a correlation between foreign policy and guns, because it's kind of hypocritical for us to say, oh, look at all these like gun control and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, at the same time, we have these countries, we have like Saudi Arabia and all these other countries behind our backs selling like making deals to sell arms, selling like military deals to like sell military weapons. So it's like, I don't know, like
the U.S. trades mostly in arms.
Yeah,
it's
that's
one
true.
of the top trading, and Saudi Arabia is a part. ally. You're not going to
Absolutely.
It's the law of capitalism.
Absolutely.
It's in money.
Yeah. And by the way, with the last 10 minutes that we have, I would like to call upon the other host, Chaman and Rhythm. We're gonna have our concluding remarks. So Chaman, if you can come. Chaman and Rhythm. Rhythm. All right. So with the last 5 minutes that we have, I'm gonna do something that incorporates all of us. So, any lighthearted discussions, I mean, that you guys can think of, like, what are you guys up to? I mean, you know, Canadian culture. I mean, Russell. I had a discussion with you guys. Russell Peters, he identifies as an Asian, but as soon as he goes to India, he's like, no, I'm Canadian. Like, what is the deal with Canadians? Like, every time we go to America, like, they make up like that weird accent. I'm saying, wait, that accent doesn't exist.
Wait,
so
that accent does exist.
It totally exists.
It's only in some parts of the United States.
Totally exists.
Wait.
I've heard it.
It's like, howdy, like, we're Canadian. It's like, do we talk like this?
Some Canadians do.
We don't, but like the original Canadians, like actually people who were like for generations here, they had it. We're all immigrants in some way or another, so we bring with us our home accents. So of course we don't speak like that.
The original Canadians.
Yeah.
Like the Aboriginals?
No, the original ones who stole it from the original ones, but we consider them the original ones.
The actual
Stole it? Oh yeah, that's a whole lot.
If you go to small town Ontario,
Yeah.
you will hear the accent.
Yeah, and in terms of Canadian culture, what are your goals? What are you guys like hopes in terms of like the marriage, the food? What do you guys want Canada to improve upon?
Marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage.
I would love to see Canada stop defining itself in opposition to the United States.
Yeah, it's like you want to do our own thing.
We're kind of like United States little brother.
Yes.
We kind of do what they do. They're like,
In a
we're
good
going
way or a bad way?
yeah, we're coming too.
Yeah, in a good way or a bad way?
In a bad way. We like to send our peacekeeping forces all over the place. It's like, oh, America, you're there. We're going to go peacekeep over there. Oh, you guys have M4s? We're peacekeeping. Sure, buddy.
I think keep the peace. The best example of it is Tim Hortons is a classic sign of Canadian culture, but it's owned by an American company. So I think that pretty much sums up the Canadian relationship with the United States.
Yeah, it does. Well, and there's also that thing where I do remember specifically Trump and Trudeau was having a conversation, and Trump said this like made up thing, and then you have this like behind the tapes, and we could hear like, I'm Trump's like, yeah, I was lying, and he bought it. I'm just like,
no, he wasn't behind the tapes. Trump actually
explicitly
lied.
So is that something associated with Canadians? Like when people think of Karen, do they think, oh, it's Canadians, it's the softies? Like,
no,
I'm sorry.
Something associated with Canadians. It's something that is associated with Trump.
Yeah,
that's the way he is.
That's true. So any concluding remarks? I'm giving you the power. I'm giving you the floor. So any lost time from the topic one? That things that you weren't able to say, you have the floor now. Anything you want to say, I have given you the power. I have given you the torch. So anything that you guys want to say, you can say it now.
You have given me the freedom of speech.
I have given you the freedom of speech.
Well, it's just look, I could ramble on about different things, different topics. I don't think it's as fun, but I really hope that we got to understand the core of the arguments that both sides presented, with one saying that we should take care of people's feelings, we should be mindful of them, and the other side saying that there should be no repercussions for people who choose to be inconsiderate. Right?
This is the thing we're talking about. It's like
the way it's just that when the way I grew up, like I didn't exactly grow up in a very nice way. I grew up in a very rough way, and so for me, like when you said taking care of people's feelings, I just found that hilarious. The fact that feelings are so much of a problem in today's society, where people are like, "You hurt me," and I'm like, "Come on, man."
I think there's a difference between being an asshole and
but that's the thing, right? When you speak your mind, people, okay, if they get hurt, okay, and if you're a nice guy, you'll reserve it and go continue speaking about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone getting their feelings hurt is something so big that we have talk shows like harping on, we got media harping on, we got politicians harping on it, we got people protesting over it.
Okay, you know what? I hate to disagree with you right now.
You have that full right, and I got no issue.
The statement, feelings hurt, is literally undermining the entire root of the argument. I am not mad at you because you hurt my feelings. It's really so much more complicated than that. And people tend to really simplify this argument, you know, by really making a joke out of it. That, you know what, we should be able to say whatever we want, you know, like if it hurts your feelings, well, that's okay. But the problem here, we're not talking about feelings. For instance, if I call you stupid right now, or an idiot, or whatever bad term right now, I will not go to jail. I have every right to say that to you, no matter what the context. And if I hurt your feelings, that's fine. I'm not arguing against that. Now see, if I associate myself as a she, my entire life I have associated myself as a she. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Turn to mansplain.
You know, it's my identity. I associate myself as a certain way. And it's just because you have the freedom of speech, I do not believe gives you the right to undermine how I see myself. You don't get to call me he. Even if you have the freedom to do so, I still think that if you completely understand in your rights that it offends me, that it goes against everything I stand for, it goes against my soul, my identity. Just because you can't say it, doesn't mean you should be able to.
So you get to call him stupid, but he doesn't get to call you he. He doesn't identify as stupid if you don't identify as a male.
No, if we're talking about insults, I think going, you know, using words like he, she, they, whatever, I don't see it as the same level as insults. Pronouns. I don't see it as the same level as insults. I think it's two completely different arguments.
I think you both
By the way, you know the irony of this? The irony of this is that we have reached the most exciting climax, but it was like at the conclusion. So it's like the irony there.
This deserves another show.
It's like the irony there is like we have reached a more exciting part at the conclusion. However, I know you're like, okay, let me say something here. I'll give you the floor too. Here's the torch. Now now you guys can say something too.
So are we supposed to talk about the U.S. topic? Or
No, just in general, just concluding remarks.
Well, I guess concluding remarks. It seems like we need an after-party debate. Or
another show, definitely another show.
Yeah.
With a bigger audience, a bigger stage.
Yeah, a better host.
A better guest.
I'm joking.
Jordan B. Peterson is a better guest.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
But that's the art of it. That's the art of it. The art of it is self-deprecation.
Yeah, it's free speech. This show is about free
but also
speech.
making fun of yourself.
Yeah.
The art of making fun of yourself, that's the best part.
Yeah.
And making fun of, look at how like hideous my eyes are.
What?
I mean, just throwing it out there.
I'm got great eyes, man.
Yeah,
Don't put yourself down.
Hey. Alright, Shiram, Anders, you
Okay, wait. I want to say one more thing.
Didn't you give the torch to them and then we...
the torch is like right there.
I'm taking the torch. I have the torch now.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. All right. So here's the thing. I think the thing about offending people is intention is what matters, right?
Yeah.
If you have malevolent intent, then you're guilty, right? But how do we determine intent? It's such a blurry area. It's like how do you determine if somebody had malevolent intent when they were saying something against somebody?
Intent is impossible.
How do you find out if it's hate speech, right?
Kind of jump on that. I don't think it's about intent because you should be able to intentionally offend someone. That should be perfectly fine.
No, but what if you intentionally hurt somebody that's marginalized in society?
What if you intentionally hurt someone who isn't marginalized?
No, I'm not saying somebody who isn't marginalized. I'm saying people who are marginalized in society.
Okay, not
So here's the thing.
No, they are
Someone said this.
should be allowed to attack Nazis. Yeah, and as soon as you start dividing society up and saying there's free speech going towards this and going towards this thing, you have to make sure that you are accepting the right parties. So let's say we take ourselves back 200 years. We're 200 years ago, and now we're having this free speech argument. Should people be allowed to offer opinions, like, for example, in favor of gay rights? That would strongly offend a lot of people. It would really offend a lot of, say, churchgoers and all that. Should those opinions be allowed to be expressed? Yes. You should have free speech because...
society.
But we are too. to say that we are no longer a primitive society and that we've reached the end of morality and we are the ultimate moral structure is incredibly arrogant.
No, but we're trying to progress, right?
Okay, but anyways, just to...
Here's the last word. Here's the last word.
The last part, the conclusion.
Offense is always taken, it is never given.
Okay.
And I think that sums it up.
Okay, that sums up the conversation. Not only that, for me, personally, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, we've discussed like, the Democratic, the liberal, the conservative. Me, I view myself as more of a libertarian. So I believe in, like, you have the freedom to believe in whatever you want, as long as you don't force that belief upon others.
I think we all believe that.
Yeah. So that's what I believe.
Opinions about Hawaiian pizza, but
I'd say my goal for me, I don't know about you guys, my goal personally is that the pineapple pizza lovers and the non-pineapple pizza lovers and even the mayonnaise pizza lovers, we can all like live together in harmony and even like disagree. Hopefully we can like have a like productive discussion without like the heated discussions, if that makes any sense, and hopefully we can go on and just have a productive discussions with people from opposite opposite ends of the spectrums, people with pro-gun versus anti-gun. We have someone that's like pro-gun, me, I'm more of a neutral, and we were able to have a productive discussion. That is wonderful, that is excellent, that means we're making progress. So ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed the late night show and the wonderful cast here. Rhythm Sachdeva, Chambukari, Yusuf Bulbolia, Anis Graham, Sriram, Ibrahim. Anyways, this is your host, DJ Razcoon. This is definitely not the first. This is definitely not. No, wait, I screwed that up. This is definitely not the last late night talk show. We're gonna have another late night talk show in the next 3 months, definitely in the summertime. So tune in next time with a different venue, with the same host, different host, doesn't matter. And hopefully you enjoyed this week's late night show. Tune in next time. The video is going to be uploaded to YouTube, and I'm just going to say, be there or be square. So thanks for tuning in. Bye.